If you are in retirement or getting close to it, I want you to lean in for this one, honey, because this is one of those quiet little money mistakes that does not show up with fireworks, it does not send you a loud warning, it does not knock on your front door. It just quietly chips away at your freedom, your peace, and sometimes even the joy of the healthiest years you have left. And here's the part that should make every retiree pause for just a moment. One widely cited report on retiree withdrawal behavior found that about 84% of retirees who had reached RMD age were taking only the minimum required amount from their retirement accounts. Not what they truly needed, not what made sense for their life, just the minimum. And that, my dear, is the quiet mistake. So take a breath. You are not alone if this sounds familiar. A lot of good, careful people are doing this because they think it is the safe thing. But safe and wise are not always the same thing. Let me explain it simply. RMD stands for Required Minimum Distribution. That is just a fancy IRS way of saying, sweetheart, you have kept money inside certain tax-deferred retirement accounts for a long time, and now we need you to start taking some of it out. This usually applies to traditional IRAs and many workplace plans like 401ks, 403bs, and similar accounts. For many retirees today, RMDs generally begin at age 73. Your first one is usually due by April 1 of the year after the year you reach that age, and after that, the deadline is typically December 31 each year. And yes, if you miss it or take too little, the IRS can hit you with a penalty that can still be very painful, so this is not something to ignore. But honey, and this is important, the minimum is not a recommendation for how much you should live on. It is not a retirement paycheck formula. It is simply the minimum the IRS requires you to withdraw. Now here's where so many people get tripped up. They accidentally turn the IRS minimum into their personal spending plan. They start thinking, well, if that is all I have to take, maybe that is all I should take. And on the surface, that sounds responsible. It sounds disciplined. It sounds like the kind of careful decision a smart retiree would make. But very often, it is fear wearing the clothes of wisdom. It's the fear of running out, the fear of making a mistake, the fear that if you take more now, you will somehow hurt your future self later. So people shrink their life down to the minimum. They skip the trip. They delay the dental work. They put off the home fix. They say no to helping the grandchild. They keep living like they are still in preservation mode, even when they finally have enough to breathe a little. I do not want that to happen to you. Retirement is not just about protecting money, it's also about using your money to protect your life, your comfort, your time, and your dignity. And let's talk honestly about the emotional side, because this is where the heart of the problem really lives. Most retirees did not spend 40 years learning how to spend with confidence. They learned how to save, how to avoid debt, how to be careful, how to sacrifice, how to put everyone else first, and how to stretch a dollar until it nearly cried. So when retirement comes, and suddenly the job is no longer accumulate, 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 many people don't know how to shift gears. They know how to work for money, they know how to grow money, but they don't know how to let that money come back and care for them. And that creates a strange sadness because some retirees end up underspending in the very years when they are healthiest, strongest, and most able to enjoy life. Then later, when health changes and energy drops, they may finally have the money, but not the same freedom to enjoy it. Honey, that's a heartbreak I want you to think about gently, not fearfully. You did not save all those years just to sit in a permanent waiting room. So how is an RMD actually calculated? Let me make it easy. In most cases, the amount is based on your retirement account balance at the end of the previous year, and then the IRS divides that number by a life expectancy factor from one of its tables. That's why your RMD changes over time. If your account grows, your RMD may grow. If the factor changes because you're older, that changes things too. For many retirees today, the regular uniform lifetime table is used. If your spouse is more than 10 years younger than you and is your sole beneficiary, there's a different table that often gives you a smaller required amount. Now, you don't have to memorize the table, honey. The point is simply this. The IRS is using a formula to determine the minimum withdrawal. It's a tax rule. It is not a life plan. It does not know your grocery bill, your joy, your travel dreams, your care needs, or your family priorities. It's math, not wisdom. Here's another little trap hiding in plain sight. Some retirees delay that first RMD until April 1 deadline in the following year because they think, wonderful, I've bought myself more time. And yes, technically they did, but what they may have also done is set themselves up for 2 taxable withdrawals in 1 calendar year, one for the year they delayed and one for the current year due by December 31st. That double hit can quietly push income up faster than expected. This is a lot, but stay with me because this one matters. A bigger taxable income can affect more than just the number on your tax return. It can create a chain reaction. It may mean more of your Social Security is taxable. It may also increase your Medicare Part B and D premiums through something called IRMA. Don't let that name scare you, honey. All it means is this. Medicare looks at your income, and if it is over certain levels, you may pay more. So if you wait and wait and wait, take only the minimum for years, let tax-deferred accounts keep growing, and then later those forced distributions get larger, you may be building a bigger tax problem for your older self. That's the irony. People think they are being conservative, but sometimes the ultra-careful path creates larger forced income later. You are doing just fine if no one ever explained this to you. Most people were never taught to think about retirement money in layers. But once you see the ripple, you can't unsee it, and that can be a gift. Now, I want to pause here and say something from the heart. Please don't hear this as spend recklessly. That's not what Auntie Grace is saying. I am not telling you to run out and drain your accounts or live like there is no tomorrow. No, honey. I'm saying something softer and wiser than that. I'm saying your retirement spending should be based on your needs, your values, your tax picture, your health, your goals, and the life you are trying to build now, not on a government minimum. For some of you, the RMD may truly be enough. For others, it may be too much. And for many, it may be too little to live the way you could reasonably live. The mistake is not the RMD itself. The mistake is letting the RMD do all the thinking for you. That's the quiet part. No drama, no sirens, just years slipping by while you live smaller than you needed to, or later pay more tax than you had to, because no one helped you connect the dots. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a retiree named Linda. She's healthy at 73. She wants to visit her sister twice a year, replace the old carpet that makes her knees hurt, and maybe treat the family to one nice beach week while the grandchildren still think she's magic. But Linda is scared, so she tells herself she'll only take the minimum RMD because that feels safer. Year after year, she keeps the rest untouched. Meanwhile, her tax-deferred account continues growing. Later, her required withdrawals get larger. Then one year, she realizes her income jumped, more of her Social Security is taxed, and her Medicare premiums crept up too. And the saddest part is not only the extra tax, it's that Linda skipped things she would have treasured when she still had the health and energy to enjoy them. Do you see it, honey? The real risk is not always spending too much. Sometimes the real risk is living too little, too late. So what can you do instead? Let me explain it simply. Start by separating 3 questions that retirees often mash together into one anxious little ball. Question 1, what do I need and want to spend to live well? Question 2, where should that money come from in the smartest order? Question 3, what do I need to do to satisfy the tax rules? Those are not the same question, and when you separate them, the fog begins to lift. Maybe your ideal spending number is higher than your RMD. Maybe it's lower. Maybe it makes sense to take some money from a brokerage account one year and a retirement account another. Maybe you want to use cash savings for a big one-time expense instead of stacking taxable income. The point is to create a plan based on your life first, and then fit the tax rules around that life as intelligently as possible, not the other way around. This is also where a Roth conversion can quietly become a smart planning tool for some. Now, take a breath because I'm going to keep this plain and gentle. A Roth conversion simply means moving some money from a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA and paying taxes on that converted amount now. Why would anyone do that? Because later, that money can potentially grow in the Roth, and while you're alive, Roth IRAs generally don't have RMDs for the original owner. So for some retirees, especially in lower income years before big RMDs start, converting modest amounts over time may help reduce future required distributions and smooth out taxes later. But honey, this is not a one-size-fits-all trick. A conversion can increase taxes in the year you do it, and if you do too much too fast, you can create the very ripple you were trying to avoid. So think of Roth conversions like seasoning, not a whole bottle dumped in the soup. Used carefully, they can help. Another gentle